look forward to deeper diving into crypto. I was on the call last week, so it looks like it's a good group to assemble. Well done. The other things here before we just again we're in this village spirit. So I'm excited that you can do number 4. I think you sort of know what to do, Bill. You're going to bring the therapeutics and some other aspects. 5G. I don't see anybody on from ARS, but Simon Vine and Nitin, who's running their TMT strategy, will be part of that. And then private credit and African mentioned asset allocation, which will be a sort of a stepping stone from this roundtable. And then Tino, you and I were talking about the VC Angel Mixer. That's where the CEO or the founder of AngelList will be a keynote. Although, as I've told many people, I really don't like doing direct deals, angel deals, unless it's like to people who are super strategic. That's how people get burned. So we'll have that debate. Who else wants to see other things on the in process list or wants to join any of these? Like Damien put this together. You can all be I'm sorry, Dominic there with 7. You were mentioning Damien, that's why I got off. But whoever wants to be a leader like Bill, right? Bill's killing it. So keep killing it, Bill.
I'll keep the sword sharp.
There you go. Anything else from anyone as to topics or either that you want to see on the list or otherwise join in on?
Hey guys, this is Yvonne.
Hey Yvonne.
So I don't particularly have a direct interest in films, but then my Saudi family office had invested in a film and then wanted extra distribution in the United States. So we were working on something like that. But I think the film world could be a really interesting, an interesting area like financing film, where Netflix, Hulu, how to get access. And then you have all these sub platforms to do their films. So is that a good investment arena? And yeah, I think that's can be kind of interesting to see what the returns are on that.
I would love to do more in film. Some know I've been burnt, and we do things we would do bridge loans, but we can't do them now because of there's no bonding for independent films. Only the studios will self-insure at the moment, or certain jurisdictions will cover them. But yeah, that's an area that we know a bit about.
And that's also an area that, I mean, obviously Ed links. I mean, I've got connections in that world.
That's true.
Yes.
Mark, as part of my personal stuff, so I don't want to promote, I'm going to try to say this without promoting myself.
Promote yourself.
Okay, so I'm an indoor vertical farming, and we've just been working on our business plan and putting together a whole bunch of stuff. And I put together a list, $1 billion, 1 billion.01. I want to make it over $1 billion, was invested in indoor vertical farming in 2020. Okay, so I don't know if $1 billion
in the US or where?
In the United States. So it's a big market, a little bit in Europe as well, a little in Canada, but it's $1 billion in overall in the space. So I know you did something a while back. This is all VC money, right? So I don't know how that fits with what you're talking about, but there's a lot of exciting stuff there.
So I want to raise my hand. I'm with you and Zale. I'd love to talk to you afterwards about vertical farming. I had an environmental landscaping business way back then, and we transformed traditional landscapes. I'm doing a lot. I'm actually having conversations with Groden and NYC on creating big agroforestry farms in the city across, and then incorporating that. And also on that topic, Richard Donovan from Queens, he's the Queensborough president, and his whole platform is converting Queens into a sustainable city or community, and food security is part of that. So,
okay, so I've got ag tech and indoor grow as a theme. We'll come back. Anyone else? Because we'll just try to make sure we get all the themes out.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I got Zale and Yvonne.
Oh,
Who else?
sorry. The other one, sorry, that I want to talk about, which doesn't affect me so much, but is opportunity zones. And I think opportunity zones are going to be big. If he raises the capital, the opportunity zones are sort of burping along. But if Biden raises the capital gains taxes, all of a sudden opportunity zones will be very good. My wife runs property management, and this Biden's declaration where he's going to push off the eviction notice to September is she was buying a big property. There was a whole bunch of evictions that she was supposed to do in there because people weren't paying the rent. And it totally screwed up her whole financial model by this. So I think there's a whole discussion on property, real estate, Biden.
Or, the whole Biden, I mean, we were going to bring it into the global conference, which might end up being the asset allocation summit after Biden implications are clear.
Right, but this is strictly a real estate thing for the small to medium-sized real estate guys.
No, I get it. And I understand. So there's, I mean, and I see some of that on Yvonne's WhatsApp chat, the New York real estate crowd. But
yeah, I could bring those people over. Let's set up a call with a guy, Harry, and we'll do something.
Okay, let's do it.
And also Red in New York, Red NYC.
Okay, anyone else? Looking around. Chris Mayo, what are you focused on right now? Or stepped away. And Joe, if you could help on the impact, if you've got some keynotes, then you want to get in a big way. That the conference here on the Joe Sterncheck.
Yeah, I can make some contacts. When is this?
What does it say?
I'm sorry?
You can't see it. I know we're getting not younger. March 24.
All right, let me make some contacts. I'll see if I can bring some people to the table.
Sounds good.
I guess along the lines of Yvonne and Zale's comments on urban farming, I'd lob in support and help on that and feel there's an awful lot to know on the plant-based nutrition directions as it relates to plant healthy, and a lot of interesting angles that could be expanded on that not only are strategic for global food security and health purposes, but also are walking points for all of us.
Also biodiversity and water security. It's very complicated. It's like there's so much to it.
Just to jump in on what Leslie was saying, I've been running a number of informal polls in groups that are vegan groups, and some of these vegan groups have 160,000 members in these are Facebook groups, and they have huge numbers of people that are vegans, and it turns out that the vegans, and I don't know how this will work, but they're vegans who are vegans because of what I call values. They don't want cruelty to animals. There are vegans who are vegans for health reasons, and then there are vegans who think that it's better for the climate, and then there are of course the vegans who are religious for religious purposes. So that kind of is the consumer for all these plant-based companies. The connection to me is obvious, but it's a whole subcategory of consumers who are driving huge models. And one of the problems that they're listing is it's very hard for them to go into the big retailers, the Walgreens, not the Walgreens, it would be the Giant, Acme, and actually find their vegan food. They have to hunt and peck for it. So it's a whole, again, I'm a more entrepreneurial side.
There are people if you Ben Zeitz, Joe, I love Ben Zeitz. If you get them going, just get ready for 90 minutes, or a couple hours. but he's a meat and potatoes guy. He's got 25,000 grass-fed cattle. He's doing potatoes. He also owns High Times, the cannabis magazine. But and then others like Mark White's on here, right? And who's doing ag tech, if you don't know. Maybe Mark, you may want to fund Zale for all I know, for what he's doing. But you guys should connect.
Yeah, Zale, you can reach out to me. We don't typically do, we do more natural science type innovations, but feel free to reach out to me. I've talked to a lot of people in the indoor ag space.
Can you toss me in the chat your email?
Sure.
Of course, you're teaming me up, Zale. It's real easy to connect. You know where you can connect?
361 firm.
Yes, but on the app, right? I will just have to demonstrate it. You know, just because you've teed me up here. Actually, you know what I like is I'm going to share my phone screen since I got 1 minute. Meanwhile, anyone else before I turn over to Stephen Burke to enlighten us? What was that sound, Stephen? What did you just say?
I was thinking about the enlightenment part. It was a little bit of an overstatement.
You were a 10 of 10 on your modesty scale, but
I think I'll prove you wrong on this one.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing so I can share with you. I don't know if you can see. I'm trying to. Am I? No, I'm not. Here we go. So Zale was saying he wants to connect with Mark White. So just to show you how easy it is, you come over here and click here. Who do you want to meet? Mark White. All right, except you have to type in his name properly. And Zale. Bam. Done. Start. Chat. Connect. And you're connected.
Thank you very much.
It really is that easy.
Easy peasy. Try it. It's fun.
So as you can see, we have our prediction survey back to the Bill Walsh. He was suggesting that we all integrate and know each other. So Jim Hawk or Akshay, who's runs doing a venture investment program for a family office, or you can see, what I thought about what happened a few weeks ago in the Capitol, or Paul Linden. He's got like this new platform for auctioning, for syndicating debt. Mike Daly shared, my roommate in Cleveland, Chance Patterson. I go to Russia for 8 years. I come back. Chance is like number 6 employee at Sirius FM with the coolest job, head of corporate communications. They were sponsoring the Super Bowl. Then he became Oprah's corporate communications director during the Obama campaign. So and now he's a director at the King Center. So it's a really interesting. You can see this. The full-length film was done the last 18 months. You got Leslie talking about another water event. Paul observing what's happening in Florida with people. It's basically people are chartering jets to go get the vaccine in Florida if you can afford it, or sticking around, or flying in. So it's a really, they're very efficient there. Vadim on the VC world, Tino, Space, which is one of our groups. I just got this Series B Israeli company interest in elder care, which is actually another theme that you wanted to talk about here. So I'm just saying, we've got an app.
I want to pitch that MLK documentary. I haven't listened through all the way, but it's interviews with people alive now that were contemporaries of King.
Yeah, it's pretty special. So, Stephen, I I'm going to turn it over to you and go in reverse if I could. I know you want to take the screen?
Sure. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Find my presentation here.
41st, Stephen Burke, Tuesday briefing.
With Sean and Arnold, which I wish I could have Arnold do this every week because he doesn't have to prepare.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So today I want to talk about RX rates and risk. Talk about the vaccine distribution and then get into it a little bit more. I want to start with the outlook for global GDP from the IMF. They update it twice a year, usually April and October. And you can see we've been, pretty much in a steady uptrend if things work the way they want to. Unfortunately, I think growth of debt is actually going to be a problem that we're going to want to talk about at some point, but not right now. And you heard today with Janet Yellen talking about the need for a lot more stimulus. She's not alone in that. Christine Lagarde's talked about it for the EU. And the head of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, has also said that vaccines are great, but they're not the solution to what the problems are because it's going to take time to get it done. She thinks there's two things we have to be very careful about: of not withdrawing policy too soon, but getting it out more quickly to everyone everywhere. She has particular concerns about certain countries and certain regions that are going to have problems here. So the IMF is looking at 5.2% GDP growth for this year, where they were projecting minus 4.4% for last year. So pretty significant turnaround. But the concern about the vaccine is particularly high for low-income countries because if we're having problems getting it out in the US, picture what it's like in some of these less developed areas where the healthcare systems are just in early stages of development. So that's a big issue. But what you're going to hear a lot more of, and Janet Yellen talked about it today, the IMF's talking about it, is the scarring that's coming out of the challenges based on the pandemic. The loss of livelihoods is going to take a while to get back. And there are areas where we know that jobs are going to not come back because they're being replaced with technology. So they think because of the pandemic and the economic scarring, we could lose $28 trillion. But if we get the distribution right, we can cut that down by increasing output by $9 trillion. But we're still going to have a big problem. And this is coming as debt's rising, inequality is getting worse, and maybe worse once the policy support's withdrawn. And I think that's one of the big issues when you hear Jay Powell and others talking about, we're not planning on raising rates, we're not even thinking about raising rates. And one of the things that we suspect that they're doing is they're doing yield cap management without announcing it, just by buying longer dated treasuries to keep the long end of the yield curve down. As Arnold talked about, if you can manage your debt loads and you own your currency, it's all in your own currency, it's only the cost of the debt servicing that you're worried about. That is part of the problem for the emerging market economies, particularly in certain ones in South America, where their debt levels are so high, but they're also in dollar denominated. So they need a weaker dollar to help manage that because they have the cost of the debt plus the concerns about the currency. And that's a problem that won't go away anytime soon. The other problem is corporations are taking on debt, but I've said for the last year, there's three inequalities that people should be worried about: country inequality, corporate inequality, and income inequality for individuals. I think those three are still problems. And unfortunately, the policy response is making it worse and making it harder for people, particularly on the low end of the income scale, to deal with the pandemic because they're typically not in jobs that you can't go, that you need to go to, that you don't have to go to work. And so I think that's going to be very important. But I also think the problem around the world for all the money we're spending is we have to be very selective in what we're supporting, not just for the people, but for the areas. And we're going to have to really be focused and try not to spread it around because we do have limited resources. And the goal is to improve productivity, which is going to happen. Corporations are doing it now, but individuals are starting to get much more efficient because of the commerce and the digital trends. So very important area. I just wanted to show you a couple regions that are low income regions and what their GDP has been. You see the blue is Latin America, the orange is the Middle East and Central Asia, and then you have Sub-Saharan Africa, which is one of the big areas for us, that in South America, in getting the vaccine out, that we're very concerned about how that distribution goes, which then gets into how do we really reopen up the global economy if these areas are struggling. What you can see is very low growth in 19, except for Sub-Saharan Africa. But when you look at the pain that Latin America and the Caribbean have suffered this year, and then a rebound to 3.57% growth, but they need big growth to deal with the issues that they have. So it's an area of concern, not right now, but down the road. And the other element of that, and we get into this, is the lower you're keeping interest rates, and this is a projection from the OECD, and it looks at different countries going out to Q4 2022 is what their long-term interest rate forecast is. And these are not big rates. So if you get to all but 5 are under 2%. 3 of the others that are under 3%. So that is not high interest rates 2 years out. So think about these numbers. So what's that doing? It's certainly encouraging risk taking. Central banks have brought global short rates down to about 68 basis points. That's down about 150 basis points in about 13 months. That's encouraged people to seek opportunities elsewhere, but they tend to be in areas that create higher risk. The economic scoring is going to keep rates low, and you're going to hear that from the policymakers for some time. And that's going to encourage greater fiscal stimulus. But at some point when they start to take the stimulus away, we think there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences. One of them is that market participants who've been taking greater risk in search of returns are going to be surprised about when the change happens. And if you think back to what low interest rates did to the housing market in the early 2000s, it was going along really well until it didn't work. And when it stopped suddenly, and the reversal was sharp. So we're not concerned about that in the near term, but we are concerned about the amount of money that's being locked up in illiquid investments. So it's not a problem now, but it may be one in the future. And that's just one of the things that I think, Mark, at the asset allocation discussion, we can spend some time on. How are they thinking about the search for yield and greater returns in a low return environment? And how are they managing the liquidity against that? And what does it mean for asset allocation strategy? So that's where I'll stop and open it up to questions.
I mean, every time you say I'm going to stop, I'd like, keep going. You know, you're just like on a roll there. But any questions to Stephen?
I'd like to hear from people around the country too, to hear what they're seeing in terms of the distribution, particularly out of the US, and getting the vaccines out would be interesting to understand. Jerry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Great as usual. I couldn't agree with you more, but what are there any sort of pre-indications when that housing market hits the wall? I mean, we knew last time it was on the lending side and the derivative side. That supposedly has been cleaned up this time, but what do you see? Is it just when interest rates start moving higher, or?
Sorry, if I led you to think that I'm worried about another housing bubble, I'm not. I am worried about the risks that people are taking in the stretching for yield and moving to, I'm not sure that the match of liquidity to returns is going to be there. I'm also worried about the regulatory environment for that's coming our way with the new administration coming to the investment area in general. But private equity is going to be, private deals are going to be one of their big targets. And what the worry is that they were taking on too much debt and then letting too many people, laying off people. And in the area of stakeholder capitalism, I think we're going to have a different element of how we think about taking on risk and liquidity and what the returns are going to be, because I do think we're going to see generally some return compression. And if you add to that you have liquidity risks, everyone just has to make sure that they're managing their own liquidity risk appropriately. I think this is going to be harder, Jerry, to figure out when it becomes a problem, because I think the central banks are going to do yield capping. And I think the Fed is already doing it without really doing it, but I think they're in the market buying longer dated maturity for the last couple of weeks to keep the rise in rates more manageable. And what you're going to see is if you start to see sharp moves up in interest rates on the long end, that could be part of the early signs of it. We do think for the first time in a while that there will be pockets of inflation, but we don't think that's a long-term concern. But if inflation really starts to take off, that is a big risk. And the other thing is look to the emerging markets and what's going on with their debt levels and what their interest rates are doing. If you see a sharp move up in rates, that could be a sign that the end's getting nearer.
Thank you very much.
Remember, a lot of the deals in the fixed income side have been done very covenant light, and that's not a great sign when when it's great going in, but when there's a problem, it becomes a bigger problem. So I think those are the areas we'd be looking at.
Hey, Stephen, it's Rob Colorini here. Quick question related to emerging markets and the vaccine. I think India has been in the headlines in the last week or so about this 100 million intended distribution of the COVID vaccine. Do you feel things are apples to apples with respect to temperature control and safety and distribution, or what are some of these emerging markets or international markets doing right in terms of targeting and those larger numbers?
I'm not sure what they're doing. I'm not sure what they're doing right, but what I'm saying is the lower income countries that have weaker healthcare systems are going to be a big problem because of the logistics that you just mentioned. And it's compounded in those weaker healthcare systems by all the things that we know of the logistical problems of getting it out. And Brazil actually was moving towards the Chinese vaccine, but they were finding 50% rates on those in terms of effectiveness. That's a big gap between the Moderna's and the Pfizer announced effective rates. So if that comes up, that's where the problems start to come. And then how do you open up a global economy fully if you're having big, high population areas having difficulties getting it out? India doing 100 million is great, but it's a 1.4 billion population country. So they got a long way to go. But they've done some logistical things in the last couple of years that are actually very impressive. Their biometric work that they did to get people their bank accounts and all that. So they do have areas that they're pretty well organized, but it's, look at what we're having. CVS is having problems getting the vaccines. We're going to have distribution problems here. We have a pretty good healthcare system for all our complaints about it compared to others. So I think that's going to be the issue that we're going to have to focus on.
Yeah, thank you. Just one quick follow note, and Mark may have input to this. I was on a Zoom last week from John Boehner, the former speaker, who's in Ohio. He commented he got his through the web public process because of age, and he did it online. It just seems like states have some different levels of that online system. And, to your point or Mark's point earlier about, folks flocking to, more available type states. But I just thought that was interesting that Boehner, despite his power or what have you, he went through the public system, he got the appointment, got it done sort of next day.
He should have been closer with AOC, who got hers a couple weeks ago. Listen, I think the problem for all countries is they need to be, it needs to be a country initiative. I think having the divergences between states being so different is problematic. This has to be something that we put the full force of our innovation and our ability to mobilize in the US much better than we are right now. And you just have to get, better at this, and there has to be a better plan for it. So I think that's going to lead to a very uneven year. So we're expecting that the year, Nancy Lazar says it's going to be wavy. I think we're going to have episodes where we're going to have risk on, risk off periods around the vaccine, like we've had for the last month or so, where you've had this mixed markets where you have big up days and some down days that make you feel like it's time to get nervous. We're not in that mode, but we think you'll have a lot of that volatility this year. And certainly until we get to the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen, the IMF projections through 2025 of like having a lower GDP by 28 trillion or something. What's offsetting that really? Is that just Fed, and central bank printing? Is there, like what's normalizing that kind of, run rate?
What's going to have to offset it is we're going to have public-private partnerships to deal with the people that are being left behind. We've talked about education. We've talked about the future work. We know what has to be done. The question is, in the US, can Congress do it? In Europe, can they get it done with their mix of, it's hard to implement policy that matches monetary and fiscal when the fiscal regimes are done for 28 different members with 28 different needs, where it's similar to some of the problems we're having distributing the vaccine here. I think the issue is going to really be, Joe, is how do you get, what's the plan to deal with the problems that we know all exist out there? And we're going to spend a lot of money to do it, but if we don't spend it wisely, we're going to have problems. So this has to be very targeted to deal with the problems that are going to come out of this, this whole situation with the pandemic.
Okay, thanks.
Warm up, Mark.
No, it's all good. I wanted to show something.
I'll give you the screen back.
Well, I was actually going to show you something completely different. My 12-year-old just came in with this. This is a pineapple bowl with chia seeds and banana. This is the work from home, silver lining. Let me move that to the left here for a second. I'll come back to that after when Dominic starts his 11:30. I will partake in that. Yeah, just wanted to. Well, hello, Ron Diamond. You just flashed on my screen.
I think I came in too early. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Actually, you're part of this. I was going to show this thing, and you're a poster child for it. So stay tuned. 2 seconds. I'm just going to show everybody 2 slides from our. If you have more questions to Stephen or on these themes, let us know. So we've got this calendar going forward. I just want to make sure everybody was aware. Obviously today in 10 minutes, you got the crypto deep dive with a lot of institutions from Fidelity, State Street, fund managers, fund administrators. Talk about the maturity, whether you're a skeptic or a bull, it'll open your eyes. Thursday is asset allocation, really looking at the data by some of the group that's going to present. The passive people are actually outperforming on a 60-40 basis a lot of our best state pensions and some endowments. But we're gonna dial in to asset allocation there for all the different perspectives. And then just quickly, February 24th, 25th, global conference that might end up becoming partly an asset allocation summit. We'll have all the Biden administration updates and vaccine updates. Then March 24th, third annual Impact Next Gen. And then on April 6th, it'll mark the 52nd week in a row we've done this. So we'll have some special guests. On deck, virus update. We're gonna, same crew with some additional people. 5G, actually that came up, Steve, before you came on. We want to get Nitin and some others. Simon Vine, you had mentioned some great European telcos. We get some Asian perspectives, hopefully. Ilya Gertzberg wants to lead a private credit deep dive. Got the people teed up for Africa. And Anessa put this together. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge, but just sort of does say everything in one go. So 11:30 crypto, I'll let Dominic talk about that. Asset allocation we talked about. Last week we had David Tyree of the Helmet Catch. Thanks to Charles Way, who's also a great moderator of this event we had on the last Tuesday with, can't see him very well, but Steve Young and Jerry Rice and Gabe Polsky, who put together this great movie. Again, thanks to Sarah Trubridge and the whole team for helping to put that together. on all the supporters here, as you can see, who contributed. Touch wood, we'll get at least 20K over to 80 zones, and I think we're going to be very strategic for them as they go forward. But one of the things I really liked were these two quick videos I'm going to share with you. One is, well, there's so many, but this is one. So bear with me on this, but I think you'll enjoy it.
It's on a great season. I go down there and nobody's there. The place is locked up because.
All right, get a little context. They just won the Super Bowl 1995, and it's the day after they celebrated. They went on Market Street, and Steve decides to go to not quite work out, maybe go get a hot tub, go to the sauna, and then he goes, and this is what he sees.
It's over, right? Everyone's, know who's going to come to work today of all the days. Kind of like, oh, what a year, And I see in the backfield in the corner some guy running. And I'm like, what is that? Then I see that he's running routes. Like he's running like receiver routes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think that's Jerry Rice running routes against air. And just think about that for a second. The day when no one's going to be around, when no one is going to know, when no one would ever care, is the day that I go to work. And I just, honestly, it gives me goosebumps.
So that was one of many great snippets. The other snippet I love is Bill Walsh. And I'm just going to play this because this is really about 361 in our community integrating.
The hotel, I want you guys interacting and intersecting. Nobody sits in the same seat. No one in the lunchroom. I want you moving around in the locker room. I want you to get to know everyone. And think about that. It's not that complicated. But amongst 50 guys, if you're not careful, a defensive back, I might know his name because it's on the back of his jersey, but I could play with a guy for 8 years and not really know him, even have much of a conversation with him. But we could be teammates. Concept was, if we're integrated, if we know each other and we have that that common bond, then we can be down by 4 in Green Bay at Lambeau Field in the snow, and with 3 or 4 minutes to go, and we can get in the huddle and we can look at each other, and there's this connection because we care about it. We know each other. When you know somebody personally, we've had the interaction with them. You know their family. You know where they're from, you know what makes them tick. You look at each other and you're more connected. And Bill brought that sense of connection. That was not in football before. There were not coaches that were consumed.
We're very excited about where we're going because of that. I'm no Bill Walsh, but I believe in what you described, Steve, about bringing people together into a community so they know each other. And that's really what this prediction series is all about. So again, you can see all these people. I mentioned it to many before that, but this deck, and Nessa can share, has all these videos. So if you want to know who's Greg Schuler, the CIO of University of Pittsburgh, or what Esther's doing, or you name it, hopefully I want to get, if we have like 80, we want to get hundreds of these put together. Because I think once we know each other, just as a lot of people have been on these Zooms, and I reconnect them, and deals happen, and that can happen, more and more as we get to know each other, and I think the video series is a good way to do that. And then I just want to turn it over. I did want to acknowledge what a high quality water event. I don't know if that we had, if Duncan or Leslie, you want to say a few words about where you're going to take water before and I'll tee up crypto.
I can just say thank you. It was really a great event. We are gathering feedback from those who participated and are very grateful for all the organizations. So going forward, we're discussing how to proceed next, and there's a lot of possibilities. And at this moment, looking for input and insights from those who've been involved November 17th and last week. And we'll stay tuned.
Great. Yeah, it was great banter. It was a little good point counterpoint, right, Leslie? If people didn't always, when people don't exactly agree, that sort of makes for an interesting program. So that was good.
Yeah, nothing like an open mic. I wasn't sure how that would unfold, but without a doubt, I think that was one of the favorite parts of the comments from our speaker panelists, how much fun that was.
Yep.
I also, this is Yvonne, I participated in that, in the water event. And I think what was really special about it was just the high quality of the presenters. It wasn't follow my PowerPoint, it was context and not just about my fund or my investment. It's the whole bigger story. And I'm familiar with water, so I was learning and enjoying the banter and the high level conversation.
Yeah, it was good. I'll just show a quick slide of what it was. And you can, go onto the app, you can see or go to the weekly digest, you'll see the full recording from Will, who set the stage. And we wanted to be very specific about what you could invest in, or just, just the opportunities. He was, just this the kind of stuff that they went through. I'm zipping through it here. It's a bigger picture. Judd, who was coming from TPG, talked about it, and then John, who's actually a Denison alum with Mazarine. So it was a great, well done to everybody. Thank you. So it's 11:30, and we're going to switch gears. And whether you're a cryptic or new, don't have an opinion on crypto, I would call myself a skeptical, not sure optimist is the right word, but I want to be smart. And, we like, the multi-manager approaches on some, and that's one thing that Iconic has, as part of its, it's not a client. We're just, just a member of the community informing us, making us smarter. Right, Dominic? And he had his beautiful daughter, 7, was the most chill little girl earlier on, as some of us saw it. And that was really cool, Dominic. So thanks for sharing her for the moment.
That was totally a scam. She's not usually like that. I've done calls with some people on this call who have heard her yelling and screaming in the background, but she was totally just in a zone.
I'd like to think it was me, but
yeah, very soothing.
Yeah, that's me. So